Welcome back, everyone. This is To Your Greatness with Dawn Mathis, and I am Dawn Mathis. I have another guest for you today. This time, it's about diet and eating and weight and things like that. And as we've talked about on previous podcasts, sometimes our biggest challenges cause us to rise up to be higher versions of ourselves. And it's in those moments and at those times in our lives that we can actually realize that we have a new mission or a greater purpose. And my guest today is Angela Roth. And Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
So just a little bit about Angela. Angela, I believe you're in the UK, yes?
Yes, I'm on the south coast of the UK in Devon.
Got you. Okay. I was going by your accent a little bit, and just the little bit.
Well, I'm from the north of England rather than
Oh,
the south.
okay, okay. Well, we're so glad to have you, and I realize it's very late there, so thanks for staying up and being on the podcast with us. So, a little bit about Angela. She is the CEO and founder of a new business called Shape Shifters Academy. I love that name, Shape Shifters Academy. Can't say that fast, but slowly it comes out all right. So, this business is focused on helping emotional eaters find self belief and confidence, and as they try to find their dream weight or their ideal weight, and to stay there for life. So, it has grown out of a passion and a commitment that Angela has to help emotional eaters discover the self belief and confidence to attain that healthy weight. And she says it comes from years of professional frustration losing weight. Oh boy, can I relate to that? Only to regain it back just a few months later. And the realization being this, that successful weight loss is about far more than simply controlling what we eat and how much we move. So I am very intrigued with that little bit of an introduction. And so, Angela, I think what I would love for you to do is I would love for you to tell your story, your past struggle, and just kind of how you came to start this business. Just take it away. I'm going to let you talk.
Well, if it just can take you back to 1975, which is a long time ago, but this was my first day at school. So I'm in a classroom and I'm surrounded by lots of girls all in a black and white uniform. It was the school of choice for parents to send their daughters to, but you had to pass an exam to get in there. And I was the first one of my sisters and my brothers. Well, my brothers didn't go there. It was a girls' school. I was the first one of my sisters to get a place there. And so there was a lot riding on this. And I got my dad's words in my ears saying, well, go on, Angela, this is the place you're going to be made. This is sort of going to set you up for life. Dreams are made here. Dreams are built here. The world's your oyster. So I knew how proud he was of me. And then I've got my mum. I was worried. I was scared because I didn't have any friends there. Nobody from my school was going. But mum that morning saying, it's going to be fine. Just smile at somebody. You've got a lovely smile. You can smile and you'll be fine. And if you can just sort of picture me standing there, kind of looking around the room thinking, well, I don't know anybody. Who do I smile at? And I saw three girls standing and they were chatting. And I thought, well, there's a threesome. Maybe I can be the fourth. And I looked at one girl, and she looked a bit like my sister, one of my sisters. And the look that I got back was clearly not kind. In fact, there was a look of hatred, really. And I couldn't understand it because, she didn't know me. So how could she look at me like that? And then the teacher came in and we were told to find a place to sit. And just as I was sitting, there was a whisper behind me, this sort of brushing past me and a whisper saying, you needn't think you're going to find any friends here, fatso. Who do you think you are?
No.
And I'm going to make sure of that. And my world just fell apart really at that point because I'd gone to this school with this belief that this was a really good place to be. And, within the first sort of few minutes, everything fell apart. And looking back then, I wasn't fat. I was a little bit chubby, if that's a word that, I was certainly not skinny, but neither was I fat. And I came from a big family, where we were all shapes and sizes and we were all loved. And I knew I was loved. But from that day at school, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell my parents because they were so pleased that I went there. And I felt, well, that's what bullies do, isn't it? Bullies are very good at making you think that you can't say anything. And so I developed a new best friend. That girl wasn't right to say I would have no friends. I developed a new best friend, but the new best friend was chocolate. And it was walking home past the sweet shop to buy chocolate. And the chocolate made me feel comforted for, the time it was in my mouth. And it was just something that I looked forward to, really. It got me through the day. And of course, my weight started to creep up. But I wasn't alone. I have come from a family with 5 sisters, 2 brothers. And one of my other sisters also struggled, I discovered. She was 4 years older than me. So we became sort of partners in crime, if you like. We would comfort ourselves with sort of secret visits to the chip shop on the way home from Girl Guides, or, that kind of thing. And Mum couldn't really understand why our weight would not, was heavier. And it just, so really that was my sort of teenage years. Battling, going to the youth group, but not wanting really to be there. And so some years later, by this time I've got children, my sister's got children, most of us have got children. And sadly, that sister, Helena, one day took her own life because of being so desolate. She had tried diets. She had dieted all her life. She had been Weight Watchers British Woman of the Year. She'd been sent over to America on an all expenses paid trip because she'd lost so much weight and everything. But you know what? Within the year, she was back at the same weight she'd been to begin with. And she just couldn't cope with it anymore. When that happened, I was lost. You don't know what to do when you hear that, when you're told that. And knowing why she'd done it made me realize that I'd got 4 children, and I couldn't do that. I had to find a way out of it. So I did what most people do. I joined a slimming club, and this was about a year later, armed with who I thought was my new best friend, which was willpower. I sort of marched into that group and went to the front of the room and asked, please, can you help me? I've got to lose weight. I need to get to myself to a decent weight. And I did. I lost 4 stone within 4 months, 4 stone in 4 months. And was totally delighted, absolutely excited, ecstatic, thinking this is it. I'm now going to be the place and where I am for the rest of my life. So excited that I agreed to take on the group and become a consultant. Did all the training and started leading that group and taking the ladies, mostly ladies, through the weight loss plan, helping them lose weight. But what was happening inside was I hadn't changed anything at all. And when other things went on in my life, as they did, I went back to eating the chocolate because willpower didn't stay.
Yeah.
Willpower was like as far away from me as, it's just running in the opposite direction.
Right.
Couldn't see him anywhere. And so the weight came back on. And so I don't know if you've tried wearing that shapewear that you can buy, but, you have to suck yourself into it.
Oh, gosh.
And so I would stand in front of these ladies, not able to breathe because I'm trying to hold myself in because of all the weight that's going back on again, feeling like a complete and utter fraud. Just like, how am I helping these people when I'm actually not even helping myself? And it wasn't until I literally was really honest with myself and I thought, you know what? This is not about diet. It's not about willpower. It's not about eating less and moving more. Because unless you understand why you actually eat in the first place, you're never going to be able to stop it. You're never going to be able to control it. You're always going to keep going back down that journey that you've already taken before, as soon as anything goes pear-shaped. And I discovered that there's no such thing as willpower. People think you hear it said all the time, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's willpower. It's willpower. That's what we need. We just need more willpower.
Well, willpower,
And that's just not
you're right.
true.
Willpower is not sustainable. Um,
No.
it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for so long and then you can't anymore. And then the beach ball pops up. And
Yeah.
yeah, so there's more to it. And so then you discovered that awareness is really what you were seeking is the awareness of what triggers eating and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really just to go back and say, well, why do I do this to myself? Why is it that every time I feel something emotional, whether it's, sadness, if it was grief, if it was just tiredness, was it being cold, was it being frustrated, was it being angry? Why is it that my emotional response to anything that's not happiness is eating? And actually happiness too, to be
Heck
honest.
yeah.
I'd be celebrating with
Let's celebrate.
people,
Let's have some
who
chocolate for gosh sakes. Yeah.
I know. It's like really every emotion you could think of would lead to eating of some kind. And it was like, well, why do I do that? And then feel guilty afterwards, because if it was a good thing that I'm doing, why do I feel guilty? So it began to make me realize that I was looking at this thing totally upside down. And then I began to realize that is so true for so many people. I mean, how many women in this world are paying weekly fees to diet clubs?
Yeah.
And all they're doing is going up and down. And the thing that really brought it home to me was, this is when I started my own business. I got a lady there. She'd been a member for 15 years of the weight loss club that I had been a member of. And she actually do the weigh-in. She used to do the weigh-in. And she used to say to herself, when I'm doing the weigh-in, because it will keep me there, it means I'll go. During the time in that 15 years, she lost 40 stone. But she'd gone there needing to lose 4 stone, and she finished when she left still needing to lose 4 stone. But in the intervening 15 years, she'd gone up and down 40 stone worth, because she just kept putting it back on again. And that just summed it up for me. And I just thought, how many other women are like that?
So Angela,
Constantly feeling guilty.
for myself and for some of us who don't know what stone is, could you define that for
Oh, sorry.
no, we
Yes, sorry,
Americans, we're a little ignorant about some stuff here. So can you enlighten us,
in
please?
kilograms. So a kilogram is 2.2 pounds, isn't it? So a stone is about 7 kilograms. So she had gone up and down 280 pounds
What?
during her journey at that club.
Oh my gosh, 280 pounds up and down. Well, that can't be good for you.
She exactly. It isn't, is it? And how many people do we know that that's happening? And what I discovered was, it is literally, like you've got your genetic heritage. So we all know about our family tree, and we understand that, and we look back, and it's very interesting to find out with your grandma and so on. But what people don't realize is we've also got a food family tree, and that down the generations, we've got in our past genetically sort of like an imprint, all the habits and behaviors that people have put into our lives beforehand. And the language around eating, and whether it's used as a treat, for example, in your house, or whether it's withheld from you, or whether you're made to eat things until they're finished. I've got stories of people who had to, eat their porridge for dinner and tea and all the rest of it until they'd eaten it and stuff like that. And then you've got times that you had in your childhood that were happy, that were often associated with food. And as you grow up, you want to get that feeling back, that emotional feeling of being loved and cared for. And if that's associated with food in your childhood, chances are that you're going to look for food in your adulthood to satisfy that particular need that you want at the time. Whether you're lonely or, disappointed, or for various different emotions, you go back to what made you feel good. You don't realize that what you're searching for is the emotional fix, and you're using the food to find that emotional fix.
That's very interesting, and something just came to my mind. There's a program out there. I'm not familiar with it, but a former client of mine said that she signed up for it. It's called Noom, Noom.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Is that about the awareness journey of how you use food in your life? Do you know much about that program, or how might that be
I do.
similar to what you're doing?
Well, yes. I mean, without wanting to be negative about anything, because obviously there's a lot of people out there who are trying to help people lose
Yeah.
weight. The one thing I would say about Noom is it is about habits. They do try and help you uncover habits that you might have that aren't particularly good for you, in the same way that the club I used to work for did. What they don't help you to understand is where those habits came from and why they're there. And actually, ultimately, although at the time you might be identifying some of those habits, until you understand why they're there in the first place and deal with that thing right in the back, it's very difficult to conquer those habits for good. You'll be able to do it for a period. And that's what I began to realize was happening for many, many women. I mean, men too, but I predominantly work with women. And it's that emotional connection that we don't understand. And unless you go and investigate it, it's very difficult to conquer it for good.
Wow. Phew. So, you talk about something. Well, we've talked a little bit about willpower and why that doesn't really work. It's not self-sustaining, but you also talk about something called instinct power. What can you tell us what the difference is between those two?
Yeah, the instinct, the biggest instinct all of us got is self-preservation,
Mm,
to keep ourselves safe and to keep ourselves
hmm.
protected. And so we will do that without even thinking. It will just come in as an urge to do it. If you can develop that kind of belief about yourself where food is concerned, you are much more likely to have a long-term lasting relationship. So I believe that we're born with 4 birthrights, and that's to be loved, to be cherished, to be nurtured, and to be protected. And all of us are born with those birthrights. But of course, sadly, we don't all live with those birthrights because we're all born into different circumstances. And we may have those things when we're a child, we may have been loved, but at some point likelihood is that we will have been hurt in some way or another. We may not have that cherish, that nurturing, that protection. That there's different periods in our life when they may not have happened. If we're an emotionally oriented person, then it is quite common, it was very common for us to use food to comfort ourselves because of those memories we've got in our past. The person that can best give us those birthrights is actually ourselves. And so for many of us, we have to relearn to love and cherish and nurture and protect ourselves. And once we've got those things in place, once we actually understand what they are and how to do that, how to put ourselves in that relationship, then we can start looking at food in a different way. And so now I will look at food, say I'm looking at chocolate, for example, and I will ask myself, is this food, is this chocolate my friend or my foe today? Is it really going to help me? Is it a wolf in sheep's clothing? And if it's my friend, I will eat that in public quite happily. I don't care if anybody sees me because actually I'm giving myself a real treat. It's my birthday, or it's a romantic gift that somebody's given me. And why wouldn't I want to share that with everybody that's in that room? If it's my secret friend, then it's really my foe. It's that wolf in sheep's clothing. And the likelihood is I'm eating it behind closed doors. I'm popping my head into the fridge and listening out in case somebody's coming. And then I'm going to close that door fast if they come because I don't want them to see me eating it. And that's the first question you need to ask yourself for anybody that's struggling in this area. You know, is this food that I'm eating my friend or my foe? Is it my secret friend or my special friend? And when you know the answer to that question, you'll know whether you're loving yourself and nurturing yourself by eating it. But to get to that place, you need to work on your own self-image and understand that you have a right to be loved. You have a right to be nurtured and cherished and protected. That's your birthright. And many of us who've struggled with food over the years have given that a birthright away. We don't believe we're worth caring about. So that's really the fundamental thing to deal with first.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. It's like the iceberg on the in the ocean. The part that you see is so much not as much as the part beneath the surface, and that's where you're talking about going um, to discovering self-love and confidence and your self-image for sure. And one of the things that I coach into is you can never outperform your self-image, and so that's something you have to work on, and there's ways to do it. And it sounds like um, that's one of the tenets of your program is self-image.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. It's about that self. It is about that realization just how special you are. As we all are, we're all unique individuals, and it's really exciting when you realize and you take hold of that fact that that you have a right to be loved. It doesn't matter how people have treated
Mm-hmm.
you have a right to be loved, and that nobody has the right to take that away from you. Not anybody in this world. And I'll tell you, I think the thing that really set me free in that area when I began to realize that was I began to realize, like, the girls who'd bullied me at school and the other situations. I mean, I had a boyfriend who he thought he was complimenting me by telling me that he said, I just, what was his words? I don't really know why I asked you out, Angela, because I don't normally like fat girls. And he thought this is a compliment. It's just like, he thought I should be glad, I should be like, think that he was a really nice guy because actually he'd asked me out.
Oh man.
And those things are life changing, aren't they? They can really knock you.
Yeah.
And realizing that actually, those people don't have a right to do those things. And actually, it's my choice, though, whether I let them affect me. And I chose to forgive them
Yeah.
because forgiveness is so powerful. And it's not about the other person saying sorry. It's about you saying that you're not going to let them affect you
Right.
anymore. It's about saying, do you know what? I'm just going to let go of that. I'm going to leave it behind me because it wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't mine to carry. That's their problem, not mine.
Yep.
And the more that you can do that, the more that you can actually release that pain that you've carried, the more you begin to love yourself in the way that you should always have been loved.
Yeah.
And then you can start nurturing your body and putting it into it, the things that are going to make it feel good.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the courses that I teach, that I coach into, we're actually talking about forgiveness and self-image right now. And the whole thing about forgiveness is if you don't have it, um, your life is toxic, and
Yeah.
we already have issues with toxicity around us, not just in our world, but in our circumstances and in our self-image. So I totally agree with that. And forgiveness is for us. It's not for the other person. I mean, they're still probably a D-bag or whatever else you want to call them, but that's them. And the forgiveness is for you. It's your gift
Yeah.
to yourself, so
Yeah.
that you can move on, and that you don't, and you get rid of that toxicity, and just whatever. Yeah, I don't understand bullying, but I know it has to do something with self-image, and in those people as well, that they just have a different way of manifesting their own lack of self-worth.
They do, and I think that's as I began to realize that and think to myself, you know what? I don't know what was going on in their life. I've no idea, but you can guarantee that it wasn't good. Maybe their dad was a bully, maybe their mum was a bully, maybe their granddad, but something was going on in their past that was making them behave like
Yeah.
that. But it wasn't my fault that they behaved like that,
No.
and I didn't need to carry it
And you
anymore.
don't need to believe it. You don't need to believe
No.
their impression of you. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. We lost connection with Angela, and nothing's perfect, and even technology is not perfect. So I was able to find out the best ways to reach out to Angela. One is her website, www.shapeshiftersacademy.com. She also has a Facebook page, Losing Weight for Life with Shapeshifters Academy, I believe, or on LinkedIn. You can find her under her name or Shapeshifters Academy. And all of those locations to find her will also be in the show notes. So you should be able to reach out to her and find her quite easily. So just wanted to make sure we gave you some ways to reconnect with her. Just want to thank you again for being here. This is To Your Greatness with Dawn Mathis. Stay healthy, stay safe, love somebody, and love yourself. And we'll see you next time. Take care.